Hello, Your Black World and Breaking Bound family. This is Yvette Carnell coming to you again Monday morning. I just wanted to take a little bit of your time and address the controversy. As most of you know, I made an 8-minute video criticizing Farrakhan. That 8-minute video that I made was followed up by an interview of me by Dr. Boyce Watkins about what I had said in the video that I had made about Farrakhan. That video was then followed up by Dr. Muhammad, a surrogate of the Nation of Islam, who thoroughly engaged me in terms of the criticisms that I had made about Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. And for those of you who haven't been following, what I basically said was that the comments that Farrakhan made about rising up and killing those who were killing us, I call those comments reckless and irresponsible. I stand by that criticism. And what we have now, after the young man, after Mr. Muhammad said what he had to say, I was hopeful, and haven't really said anything since then because I was hopeful that I would be able to engage Mr. Muhammad in a fruitful debate about issues, because that's what we're all here for. And if you're honest, in the history of whether it's Richard Wright and James Baldwin, whether people talk about W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, black people have always debated issues. So this idea of it's disunity not to debate issues is just silly, because what you're really saying when you don't want to debate is you're basically saying, I don't want my views challenged. I want to tell you what I think, but I don't want you to be in a position to challenge my views. So I reached out to Mr. Muhammad for a debate, although he seemed inclined to debate during the video, even though he said that wasn't his preferable way of doing things, that he would prefer to do things behind closed doors. He seemed open to a debate, at least to me, but he politely declined the debate. So I just wanted to let everybody know that a lot of people have reached out to me and said, Yvette, we would love to see more of this. Both of you have something really good to say. We would love to see a debate, a clashing of ideas between the two of you. I just wanted to let everybody know that that's not going to happen, and it's not going to happen not because of me. I did what I thought was necessary in terms of reaching out, and here we are. In terms of why I thought a debate was necessary, I watched Mr. Muhammad's video with Dr. Boyce Watkins, and what I saw was basically a mostly uninterrupted sermon, where Mr. Muhammad was kind of allowed to read cue cards, and pull from his notes, but none of his views were challenged. I mean, for instance, he brought up Che Guevara. He brought up the Fidel Castro in Cuba in terms of how they took over, in terms of there were only 80 men, and so there's a history of people taking over governments with only a small force. But what Mr. Muhammad failed to tell you about that revolt, and I read the biography of Che Guevara, is that, first of all, this was already a corrupt government. This government was already teetering. So this is not the United States of America. So the comparison, the analogy that he's making really doesn't work. And the second part about it is that this, not only that, but because of what was happening, because of the era in which the revolution happened, Che Guevara was actually, Fidel Castro actually was able to convince people that, hey, we have a much larger force than what you think. He actually convinced a reporter that they had a much larger force. So that kind of shook up, and that was kind of a strategic move. But, we're living in the era of NSA, and everybody knows exactly how many black people there are in America. So that comparison it just didn't fit. And there were a lot of things that just kind of, I don't know what the better way to say is, just didn't fit with what we need. Even in terms of politics, people say, well, oh, you can't do anything about, you can't do anything. We've tried politics. Yeah, we tried politics, and that's how we got the Voting Rights Act. That's how we got, that's how we got anti-lynching law. We have tried politics. The whole problem now, though, is that politics, black politics especially, is trash. We have black politicians who don't represent us, who go to Congress and don't do what they need to do on our behalf. So that's the thing that needs to be fixed. And this whole thing of that we shouldn't engage in the political, theater. It just doesn't make any sense. Why? We pay taxes like everybody else. We do the same thing as everybody else. So this, it challenges the political integrity of black people to say that, we shouldn't do this. And, even when he talked about we need to try something different, as if armed resistance doesn't have a history in this country. I mean, does he know about the Deacons of Defense? I'm sure he knows about the Black Panther Party. Does he knows that in 1919, black people took up guns when they came back from the war, to defend themselves against white mobs? Nobody is saying that you can't engage in armed self-defense. And it's certainly not true that black people have always just kind of sat around this time to try something new. We've tried a slew of different things. Some of them worked, some of them different. Some of them didn't. But the idea that black people in this country, haven't engaged in this sort of armed resistance in terms of picking up guns, is just ludicrous. And what I tell you, it bothers me that so many black people seem to believe that, or seem to hang on to this belief that, that there haven't been any improvements. I mean, when you look at the Jim Crow era, 60% of black people were either sharecroppers or domestics. You're talking about farm workers or maids. So there is this idea that seems to permeate in the Nation of Islam, that separation, that we were somehow so much better off during the time where we were segregated. And the truth of the matter is, when you look at poverty levels, when you look at how we worked, that's just not true. So the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of things, that he said that just weren't true. Even when he got to the end about, well, we're not defined by the Democratic or Republican, ideology. That's not how we define. We're beyond that. That's something a white man invented. Well, we're not conservative. Well, how can you say, because, and he said we're not conservative because we believe that mass incarceration is wrong. Well, I mean, the Koch brothers believe that mass incarceration is wrong. If you check Rand Paul, who was a Republican, he believes that mass incarceration should come to an end. Does that mean that he's not a conservative because those are his beliefs? I just don't see how that makes any sense. I just don't see that. I mean, he said we have farms, and somehow because the Nation of Islam has farms, that's transformational politics. And he didn't answer the question of how much of what is grown on those farms is commercially available to black people. Because what we're talking about here is not just benefiting. If you want to posit yourself as a leader of black people, not just a leader of the Nation of Islam, I think it's fair for us to debate, how much of what you do benefits the black community. So I just, in terms of, I just want to get back to this idea of movement politics. When you look at the labor movement, when you look at the civil rights movement, what we've done in this country has been achieved. What we have achieved, not just as black people, but people in the labor movement, people, all sorts of things, has been because of labor, has been because of movement politics in this country. So I think it's justifiable to say that there should be a movement. I think that's a totally justifiable position. I don't think it's justifiable to say that, black people shouldn't get involved in politics and politics is a failure. I think it insults the political integrity of black people to make that argument, because what you're telling black people is, everybody else who pays taxes and goes to Congress and gets money and goes to Congress and gets tax rebates and does all this, let them have that. But black people, we can't have that. We have to take up arms. And I'm not sure whether when he said take up arms, whether he meant vigilante justice or whether he meant a revolution. I mean, all of these things aren't clear. Half of this isn't clear. I mean, when you look at, he said, well, Farrakhan is not, I've never seen a general put up their plans on YouTube. Well, first of all, Farrakhan's not a military general, and nobody's asking for military plans. What I'm asking for is a strategic idea of what you're planning to do. Nobody's asking you to put military plans on YouTube. So, I mean, it was just so much of what was said to me was just kind of, in a better way to say it, just kind of unserious. In terms of the debate that we're trying to have, and I think that when you make that sort of claim, you should be willing to kind of have them challenged. And I think Farrakhan in his dinner with Boyce Watkins basically said that Yvette Carnell has a right to say what she said. It came from the heart, and she can defend and she should defend her beliefs, and that's all that I was trying to do. So I don't see, given Farrakhan's comments, I don't see how anyone now could, with any integrity or without hypocrisy, take issue with anything that I have said. Like I said, black people have a history of debating issues. I don't know when we got into this posture that we became so invested emotionally in other people that we felt that we had to defend those people at all costs. and not address the issues that were plaguing our community, and as if it is blasphemous to to criticize the ideas that someone has, as if criticizing someone is blasphemy. I don't know how we got to this position as black people, but if you want to be serious, if you want to be thoughtful, then what you need to do is, first of all, get away from that and be willing to have your ideas challenged. I am always willing to have my ideas challenged, and my door is always open. I just wanted to put that out there and let everyone know that, there won't be a debate, and that's not my fault. Take care.